Hello all, this is a tutorial about how to use MainStage. This is going to be dealing primarily with building a template to get ready to play, and it's going to be dealing with doing some very basic instrument adding and programming. This tutorial is geared for people who have been, let's say you're given a book to play for a show and the MD for the show says that you have to play through MainStage, but you've never used it before and you don't know how to get started. This tutorial is really kind of tailor-made for you. This tutorial will not be dealing with things like how to EQ your patches, dealing with attack, sustain, decay, release, how to do MIDI effects, audio effects, that sort of thing. We'll save that for another day. This is going to be for kind of getting started with MainStage for the first time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a real life example for a show that I am actually in the middle of playing right now. And we can use that. So the screen that you're looking at right now is the kind of the wizard setup for MainStage when you open it up. And you can go ahead and choose keyboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this down to a blank slate. We're going to get down to as blank as possible so that you can start with only the things that you need in order to play a show through MainStage. And the way that we can do that the cleanest is by using this setup. And we will start stripping away what we don't need, which is almost all of this. And that'll be kind of your blank canvas. So go ahead and go into layout mode, and we're just going to start highlighting all this stuff and then hitting the delete key to get rid of it. Highlight all this stuff over here, delete key to get rid of it. For the show that I'm playing, I need my keyboard, obviously. I don't need the mod wheel, I don't need the pitch bend, but I need sustain and I need this foot controller down here. So we're going to get rid of these, the mod wheel and the pitch bend. Highlight, delete, highlight, delete. I'm going to get rid of this platform. Move sustain over. I'm going to get rid of this platform. Move that over. And then I'm going to move my keyboard down. So I'm giving myself kind of a home row down here, or a hardware row. The bottom row, I always like to have it as whatever hardware I have. So the bottom is the stuff that you're putting into MainStage via hardware. Before I start putting patch switches, highlight your keyboard. If you're like me, you do 88 keys, so you can go ahead and use this over here to set it at 88. Also, if you're like me, your piano has A0 as the bottom key, so you can go ahead and set that there. I use a pedal board to switch patches, patch forward and patch backwards. So I'm going to add some buttons down here that will represent the patch forward and patch backwards. And I like the size of that, so I'm going to Command C copy and then Command V paste. Get these two side by side and move them down here. Once again, these will be my patch forward and patch backwards buttons. I'm going to use another button in this show because there are a whole bunch of times where I need to be able to play the Vintage B3, and I need to be able to turn the Leslie speaker between fast and slow. And I actually do that with a controller that I have in my setup. And I'm going to call that, I'm going to slide this text box in here, and I'm going to call it Leslie Fast Slow. Resize it. Center it up underneath that button. You see the guidelines, and then I don't want to look at the frame, so I'm going to turn the frame off. The next thing that I like to put up in any show that I play is I'm going to put a clock in the show. The reason I like to do that is because I don't like to wear a watch when I play the piano. And I also don't want to be taking my phone out of my pocket in the middle of a show in order to check the time. So I like to be looking at the time of day on my screen without having to, like I said, take my phone out of my pocket. For this parameter, if I didn't say, but this is a parameter text box that in edit mode, I'm going to set it to the clock. But for now, in the text label, I'm going to set it to value only, because if I leave it with a parameter and value, then when I get to the performance, it's going to say current time 10:43 p.m. I just want it to say 10:43. I'm going to put a VU meter up in the top right of the screen, and I'm going to leave the parameter in place. More on why I'm doing that in a little bit. And that's about the right size. The next thing is I'm going to put a background here, and you don't really need to do this, but I'm going to do it. So the show that I'm playing is called The Marvelous Wonderettes, and I like to put the logo on the screen, mostly because every show that I play, the template looks basically exactly the same. So if I'm going back to look at this show file later on, when I look at the screen, I want to know what it is that I'm looking at. I want to know what show it was that I was playing at that time. My advice is, if you're going to do that, find an image in Google Images that has a transparent background, because if it has a gleaming white background, that's very off-putting to the eyeball, especially if you're playing in a dark theater in a dark pit. You don't want that white staring you right in the face. I also selected the stretch to fit because it just looks more appropriate that way. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a horizontal meter. Must have passed by it. Horizontal meter right here. And I'm going to take away the parameter so that it's just the meter itself. And then I will explain why I'm doing that later. Okay, so next comes the actual patch. So, large patch display. At this point in the tutorial, I'm going to switch to edit mode, and I'm going to get rid of all of these patches from the wizard. We don't need any of them, obviously, because we're going to be building our own show. So what I did was I just clicked on the concert and I hit the delete key, and I'm going to delete all of these channel strips because we don't need them. Get them down to just your basic 3. You can't delete these anyway. Master, output 1 and 2, and there's your metronome channel strip. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to, inside of this untitled concert, I'm going to click on this settings button and then hit new patch with channel strip. And I'm going to create an instrument patch. The reason why is because I want to be looking at this yellow instrument layer here just to see how it fits with everything else. Back to layout. Some guys, what they like to do is they like to have a big patch list, like that goes top to bottom of the screen over here on the left. And they like to have all the patches ordered top to bottom, for the reason that they like to see what patch they just finished playing and what patch is coming up next. For me personally, I don't care what the other patches are. When I am If I've got a show that has 100 patches in it, I don't care what the previous one was, and I frankly I don't care what the next one is either. When I'm done playing a patch, I hit my foot switch and I go to the next one. I don't need to know. I don't need to be overly anticipatory about what the patch is before I get to it, so I don't need a big patch list. I like to know the patch that I'm on. I like there to be an indication of that. And so we're going to use this large patch display to do that. I'm going to make it a little bigger here. And then what I'm going to do is, because this one over here, I don't like it. I don't need it. So I'm going to ungroup this large patch display, highlight that one, delete, and then I'm going to group it again, not with the background. Group. Two more things over here that I like. The first one is the MIDI activity button. It's not a button, it's just a indicator. MIDI activity indicator. And then I'm going to Control V, paste that same button that I used on the bottom left, and I'm going to make this my panic button with some text that says panic. Center it up. Get rid of the frame. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about why I have these things up here in the upper right corner. This parameter VU meter up here, what I'm going to do is in edit mode, I'm going to set that as the CPU meter. And I just like to know how much of my CPU is being used. And for the reason that this show that I programmed, it usually doesn't go any higher than 5% on the CPU. And if all of a sudden something goes wrong and the CPU meter is reading 80, 90, 100%, I'm going to know that I need to shut down, restart. Something is going haywire there. So that's diagnostic for me. This MIDI indicator here, it's once again, it's a diagnostic thing. If something goes wrong, all of a sudden my sound cuts out, I want to see this indicator flashing if I'm hitting keys on the keyboard. If it's flashing, I know that my keyboard is sending good data into the computer. This horizontal meter here, I'm going to have it mapped to the main outputs of the show. And if something goes wrong and all of a sudden my sound cuts out, I want to look at this horizontal bar and see that there is positive audio coming out of my computer and into my, I use a USB interface and then into my amplifier into my house. I want to know that my computer is doing the right thing. And that way I know that it's my amp or something with the house or whatever. So this template is complete. At this point, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into edit mode. And I'm going to make sure that I'm at the concert level here. I've got the concert highlighted. Because if you have the concert highlighted and you start mapping things out, everything in that concert, whatever changes you make, it will apply to the entire concert. So if you make changes at the patch level, it will just apply to that patch. But at the concert level, it will apply to the entire concert. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start clicking on things and assigning, I'm just going to map functions to those things. So this is my clock. I'm going to do actions, current time. VU meter, actions, CPU load. Horizontal bar, actions, this is actually going to be, oh, here we go, output, level. Panic, actions, panic. This button down here is going to be actions previous patch. This one is going to be actions next patch. The Leslie button here, for now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send to all CC18. Actually, what I'm going to do is if in a B3 patch, I'm going to assign that button straight to the Leslie speed. And now for the patch display, I've got a big display and a little display. The big display I'm going to have as the current set, and the small display I'm going to have to the current patch. The current set is the same as saying whatever song you're in. So I want to look at the page in my book and see the title of the song, and in the biggest possible letters, I want to see that I'm in the right song in the concert in MainStage. So we've got the concert mapped at this point, as good as we're going to get it. So now let's talk about how to program the show. So I'm going to use a real-world example from the Marvelous Wonderettes. We're going to use song number 5. And that's right here. And the name of song number 5 is Dream Medley. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to click on Concert, New Set, and I'm going to call this set number 5, Dream Medley. And I'm going to drag this patch into that set. And this patch is a heavy patch, and it's going to have strings, guitar, and triangle. So I'm going to name this patch strings, guitar, triangle. Make sure my commas are correct. And so look at the patch display. I'm in perform mode, and I'm on this particular patch. I see the song that I'm on. I see the patch that I'm on. Exit out of that. Now I'm going to program it. So the show that I'm doing, it's like I said, it's called the Marvelous Wonderettes, and it's got this handy programming guide. Hopefully yours will have one too. The first instruction is 3 layers of pizzicato string. It says pizzicato string D#7 only, but then it says single note, and then 1 an octave down, that's -12, and then 1 2 octaves down, so that's -24. So it's 3 layers of one particular pizzicato string note on D#7. So I've got 1 layer, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this channel strip plus, another layer, instrument, and another layer, instrument. So I've got a yellow layer, a green layer, and a blue layer. But all 3 of them are going to be pizzicato strings. And I'm going to find all 3 of them in the plugin called EXS24. Orchestral strings, full strings, pizzicato. Do that for all 3. And all 3 of them are going to be D#7 only. So we'll do yellow, then green, then blue. Here we go. Click on the yellow, channel strip, layer. So we got high key, low key, Set them both to D sharp 7. Enter. D sharp 7. Enter. And see the yellow layer went to just that one key here. Click on the green. D sharp 7. Enter. D sharp 7. Enter. And now the green layer went down to just that one key. Click on the blue channel strip. D sharp 7. Enter. D sharp 7. Enter. And now all three layers are just on the D sharp. And the instruction had 1 at pitch. That's going to be yellow. The blue is down 12, and the green is going to be down 24, just like it said. So here we go. Green 12, blue 24. So green, MIDI input, down 12. Blue, MIDI input, down 24. So that way, when you hit this one key, it's 3 layers of a pizzicato D sharp. And so that's what that sounds like. And the next instrument to add is going to be strings, D sharp 4 to D7. So I will add a channel strip, which will add a new instrument to the mix here. It's this dark blue. We'll do another EXS24 plugin. And I just need a string section here, so I'll go strings, full strings, full strings. And the instruction is D sharp 4 to D7. So I will make sure that strip is highlighted, layer editor, D sharp 4, enter, to D7, enter. And you can see how that layer, it butts right up against those pizzicato strings layers. Next instruction is warm jazz guitar, and then plus 12, so that means it's up an octave. C sharp 2 to D4. So we're going to add another channel strip, instrument. This is also going to be EXS24. And I like to use, when it says warm guitar, I like to use this warm electric right here. And the layer instructions are C sharp 2 to D4 up an octave. So make sure that channel strip is highlighted. C sharp 2, enter, so D4, enter. And you can see how these layers are all kind of butting up against one another. That's exactly what we want. And then it says plus 12, that means up an octave. 9, 10, 11, 12. And then this is the tricky one in this particular patch. I don't have finger symbols, but it says finger symbols or triangle. And to be honest, triangle is exactly the right thing for this patch, based on, you can find the original recording for this song in this show. The triangle is exactly what you want. So it says C2 only, triangle. So here we go. Channel strip, instrument, EXS24. And then, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an orchestral kit here. And it's asking for C2 only. So in that, highlight the strip, layer editor, C2. That's it. So you can see this kind of pinkish layer, it only is the space of one note. Now, the EXS24 orchestral kit is every single key is a different um, orchestral percussion instrument. Toms, a bunch of bells, different snares, that sort of thing. There's 88 of them. I mean, it lasts the entire keyboard. So we've got this C2 down here that's clearly not a triangle. The triangle is actually up here. So what you have to do is you've got to take this key right here, this C2, and make it sound like, I think it's A or A flat or something like that. So what we need to do is we need to transpose this C up to that A or A flat. And I think what we're doing is we're transposing up 33 or 34. So we're just going to go all the way up to 33, 2, 3, and try it. And that's it. It was 33. So we've got triangle. We've got the guitar, which is up an octave. We've got these strings here, and we've got this pizzicato triple layer. Take a look at the music for a second. Song number 5. So here we go. We've got our warm guitar. It's printed up here, but you actually play it an octave down from where it's printed because the HVB. You've got string section coming in right here, pick up to 22. And then here we go. Beat 2, triangle, and every single one of these measures right alongside string section here, big crescendo. We still haven't had the pizzicato layers yet. That's coming. See, more triangles, beat 2, all these measures, and then finally we got this one pizzicato thing right on the last measure. And that's it. So this is how to set up. This is the way it's going to look in performance mode. So this is it. This is how to build a template for a show that you're playing for the first time. This is not setting EQs, MIDI effects, audio effects, and oh, by the way, all of these channel strips, the level is set to whatever is the default right there. Once you get into your pit setting, you're going to realize that some of these are louder than they need to be, maybe even softer than they need to be. So be prepared to adjust these faders here for the volume as necessary. But this is a basic show right here. This is what you need to get started. And hopefully you found this tutorial useful for beginner trying to get started on a show. I hope that you will leave me some comments if you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to say about this video, anything that you think I left out. But that's it. Hopefully you got something useful out of this tutorial, and enjoy. Thanks. Bye.